come to the x momentum equation, which should hold in some sense the key towards assessment of the behavior within the boundary layer. So, x momentum equation is that u del u del x plus v del u del y minus 1 by rho this one So, let us write the order of magnitudes of different terms. We have now been familiar in how to write those. So, what is the order of magnitude of this? U infinity into u infinity by L. So, u infinity square by L, this v infinity into u infinity by delta, this one minus 1 by rho the delta p scale, that is rho u infinity square by L, this term, okay, minus is not important for order of magnitude, then this term nu u infinity by L square, this term nu u infinity by delta square. And again, just by previous consideration, we know that this term will be much less important than this term. Now, let us pay a lot of attention to the pressure gradient term. See what conclusion we got from the y momentum equation. The conclusion that we got is that the pressure is not varying with y, and y is the direction along which there is a change in behavior because of the existence of the boundary layer. So, that means we can say that the pressure variation within the boundary layer is not important. What it means is that whatever is the pressure gradient that is acting on the flow is because of the pressure gradient that is imposed in the outer stream or the free stream by whatever mechanism. And what is the importance of the outer stream, or what is the simplification that you have for the outer stream? The outer stream is like an inviscid flow. So, the outer stream is like an inviscid flow, that means what? The outer stream is like an inviscid flow, that means you may use the equations for inviscid flow for the outer stream. So, for the outer stream, by using the equations of inviscid flow, if you find out what is the pressure gradient, the same pressure gradient is imposed on the fluid within the boundary layer, and that means the correct scale of pressure gradient should be rho u infinity square, because that comes from the inviscid flow analogy. If you neglect the potential energy part, the delta p will be of the order of rho u infinity square. For example, if you use the Euler equation or maybe the Bernoulli's equation when rho is a constant, that is what you get. So, the important understanding is that this is consistent with the assumption of the pressure scale delta p of rho into u infinity square. So, this, if this conclusion was not consistent, that means that assumption was not correct. So, that is the first thing. The second thing is p in this problem could be a function of x and y. Now, p is not a function of y, therefore, p is a function of x only. Therefore, a very important thing is here we can write this as dp dx. Going one step forward, it is dp dx, where it is dp dx outside the boundary layer, because we have just seen physically that the implication of this one implies that whatever is the pressure gradient which is existing outside the boundary layer, the boundary layer fluid is subjected to the same pressure gradient. So, that means in terms of symbols we can write this as good as dp infinity dx, where infinity stands for the outer stream, that is the notation. Okay. So, that is about the pressure gradient term. Now, we will look into the other terms. So, what are the other terms? So, the other terms you see when you have v infinity, here you can substitute the v infinity in terms of u infinity. So, this is of the order of u infinity into delta by L. So, you can see that combining these terms, each of the terms is of the order of u infinity square by L. So, the order of the left hand side which is the inertia term, is like u infinity square by L. Okay. Now what we will do with these orders, we will very soon see with an example, but before looking into that example, let us summarize the boundary layer equations. So boundary layer equations are simplified versions of the Navier-Stokes equation, which we feel that are valid within the boundary layer. So boundary layer equations, that is the summary of the equation. First equation is a continuity equation, that is very important, that has to be there. Again, when we are writing the boundary layer equations, under the assumptions that we have already described. X momentum equation, okay. If you feel, you may always write the y momentum equation like this, but it is not always necessary to explicitly write this, because its effect is already inbuilt in the simplification of the x momentum equation. So conventionally when people ask that what are the boundary layer equations, usually people refer to these two, not that the y momentum equation is not present, it is there, but its implication has somehow been inbuilt in the x momentum equation. What are the assumptions that we considered for this other than rho equal to constant and the steady, the special boundary layer assumptions? Delta by L is much less than 1 and Reynolds number is large, much greater than 1. And so now the question that we will like to answer is that are they sort of equivalent, does one follow from the other or what, I mean they are equivalent to each other or not? That is the question that we would like to answer. When we like to answer that question, before answering the question we have to keep in mind that this sort of relationship should come from the description of the system and the description of what is happening within the boundary layer. See, the Reynolds number is a system scale description, this does not understand what is boundary layer and so on, whereas this is related to the boundary layer thickness. So if we sort of describe an equivalence between these two, we will achieve our first objective, that from the system scale variation we will have an estimate of how thick or how thin the boundary layer may be. So to do that we will take this special example of flow over a flat plate. So let us take an example of flow over a flat plate. Special case, flow over a flat plate. First of all, what is our objective is to find out what is this dp infinity dx, okay. Let us consider the outer stream. See, the outer stream, the free stream flow is u infinity. So the velocity field is like u infinity I in the outer stream. The outer stream u is u infinity I, right. You can clearly understand that this is an irrotational flow because no gradient in the velocity. So when this is an irrotational flow, we have discussed earlier that an irrotational flow may remain irrotational if there are no viscous effects. So outside the boundary layer, so this is what is the importance in conceptualizing the boundary layer. Outside the boundary layer viscous effects are not important and therefore the behavior is like an inviscid one. So a flow which was irrotational will remain irrotational eternally because of this effect. Of course we forget about other possible effects which might make the flow rotational, like the Coriolis forces and so on, those are not important in this context. So if you have that as a situation, that means outside the boundary layer you have inviscid irrotational flow. So it will be when you have an irrotational flow outside the boundary layer, that means if you have also density equal to constant, you may use Bernoulli's equation between any two points where the points are located out at any location but outside the boundary layer. Within the boundary layer you cannot use the Bernoulli's equation, that you have to clearly understand, but outside the boundary layer you may by considering these cases. So when you use the Bernoulli's equation, that means you have P plus half rho u infinity square is constant in the outer layer. Forget about the potential energy difference, that is not important here. If the potential energy difference is important, you include that in P and call it a piezometric pressure. Now if you differentiate that with respect to x, so this is P infinity, this P is P infinity outside the boundary layer. So dP infinity dx, why we are doing it? We require that in the x momentum equation. So dP infinity dx plus rho u infinity du infinity dx is equal to 0, right. Now we have u infinity as a constant here, it is not changing with x. So u infinity may change with x because of what? Because of one of the things is the curvature of the boundary. Because of the curvature of the boundary you may have a gradient of pressure and you may have a gradient of the free stream velocity, but for a flat plate there is no effect of the curvature, but there is a effect of the curvature if you have flow over a sphere or a cylinder. We will look into those examples later. So that there the curvature will introduce a pressure gradient, and that pressure gradient will imply that there will be also a u infinity gradient, so to say. But here you have u infinity gradient is 0, u infinity is constant for flow over a flat plate. So du infinity dx equal to 0, which implies that dP infinity dx equal to 0. So for flow over a flat plate dP dx is 0. So when you have dP dx is equal to 0, then you are left with your momentum equation with this one, okay. So if you write the order of magnitudes of different terms here, the left hand side order of magnitude is u infinity square by L, and the right hand side is nu u infinity by delta square, right. If this equation has to be important, then order of magnitude of left hand side and right hand side has to be the same, otherwise these terms cannot nullify each other. And therefore the important conclusion that we have from that consideration is that u infinity square by L is of the order of nu u infinity by delta square. So we may write delta square by L of the order of nu by u infinity, which implies that delta by L whole square, if you divide both sides by L, is of the order of 1 by Reynolds number, right. That means delta by L is of the order of Reynolds number to the power minus half, okay. So see, this is a remarkable thing, because this is a very important observation or conclusion that we arrived at no cost, without solving any equation, without going into a computation of the equations or numerically or whatever, without going into any sort of complication, just by looking into the order of magnitude. And we will later on see that why this is so important. By toiling very hard, at the end we will come up with an expression. After when we solve the equations, we will come up with an equation delta by L equal to some constant c into Reynolds number to the power minus half, and therefore disregarding that effect of the constant c, the dependence on the Reynolds number will be still the same what we get from such a simple analysis, and that is what is one of the important powers of this order of magnitude analysis. So the important conclusion that we get from this order of magnitude analysis is very interesting. What is that? If delta is much less than L, that assumption is consistent with Reynolds number is large, because if Reynolds number is large then only you have delta by L much less than 1. So these are perfectly equivalent, that answer now we have given. So that means what are the assumptions under which the boundary layer theory is valid are either delta by L much less than 1 or equivalently Reynolds number is large. But we will always say that Reynolds number large is a more fundamental way of looking into it, because an analyst who does not know the boundary layer will, or who does not want to go into the details of the boundary layer thickness, will always be interested about the system level parameters, and Reynolds number is a system level parameter. If you know the length of the plate, if you know U infinity, if you know what is the fluid and its properties, you can estimate what is the Reynolds number, and based on the Reynolds number you can come up to the conclusion that whether this theory that you have developed is valid or not. So you do not have to really deal with delta by L, because you know implicitly that if Reynolds number is large, delta by L has to be small. So these are equivalent considerations. The other important consideration which does not come for flow over a flat plate but may come for flow over a curved surface, which we will see subsequently, is that is this boundary layer going to grow monotonically. The question is that this type of growth of the boundary layer monotonically will not always be the situation, it will depend on the pressure gradient in the flow. For flow over a flat plate dP dx is 0, so it will just grow like this monotonically. On the other hand, if you are considering a curved boundary, there are two possible cases where you are having dP dx greater than 0 and dP dx less than 0. We have discussed earlier that dP dx greater than 0 is sort of considered as an adverse pressure gradient in the direction of the flow. It tries to decelerate the flow, and it might so happen that the deceleration effect is so strong that the flow actually might take place in a reverse direction close to the wall, because wall has an effect of slowing down, and on the top of that, as if like there is a dead person and a pressure gradient is shooting a gun on the dead person. So wall is like slowing it down very severely, and on the top of that there is an adverse pressure gradient. So the poor fluid element which is very close to the wall cannot sustain all these resistances and may have a reverse directional motion, and then this monotonic growth of the boundary layer is disturbed. That situation we call as boundary layer separation. We will look into that in a more physical way subsequently, but important thing that we will understand is that if such a boundary layer separation occurs, then the boundary layer theory is not valid. So what are the important assumptions for validity of the boundary layer theory? One is like the Reynolds number is large, which is of course equivalent to delta by L small, and number 2, there is no boundary layer separation. Okay. So with this understanding, what we will do is we will just go one step forward and see that whether we may calculate the wall shear stress from this description. So let us see what is the wall shear stress. Wall shear stress is what is a very important thing, because it is one of the important engineering requirements from the analysis. So what is the wall shear stress? The wall shear stress is mu into the del u del y at the wall, y equal to 0. So what is the scale of the wall shear stress? What is the order of magnitude of this? Mu into u infinity by delta, right. So important non-dimensionalization of wall shear stress is what? We have seen it earlier in an example when we are dealing with Navier-Stokes equation, that is the friction coefficient Cf, tau wall by half rho u infinity square. So order of Cf is tau wall by rho u infinity square, forget about the half because of the order. So that means this is mu u infinity by delta by rho u infinity square. So Cf, the order is mu by rho is nu, the kinematic viscosity. See, the kinematic viscosity is what is the governing the picture, that you can see, nu by u infinity delta. Now you know how delta varies with x. So delta square by some local x will be what? Will be nu by u infinity from this one, just replace L with x, local x. So we are now trying to find out that at some local x, that is now our length L. So some x somewhere, what is the corresponding wall shear stress? So delta square by x is this one. So we can write, replace delta with nu by u infinity into square root of nu x by u infinity. So Cf scales with what? 1 by square root of u infinity x by nu, right. So Cf scales with Reynolds number to the power minus half. This is also a very important thing, and we will see later on that if you exactly evaluate the expression, it will be Cf equal to some constant into Reynolds number to the power minus half. So dependence of the all the quantities, important quantities on Reynolds number may be obtained in this way. So let us stop for this lecture and we will continue in the next lecture. Thank you.